Now, if you don't do what your Auntie Margot tells you, you're in big trouble.
The question is, do you agree that Scotland should be an independent country?
For me, the principle that we work best when we work together, without coercion or conscription, bullying or bossiness.
Always whenever someone says, oh, peace and sausage, and it's a roll and sausage, and this sausage roll, we're better together.
Well, they didn't. It was us. We invented it, just like every other bloody thing.
Well, that's very interesting.
We have very serious the referendum. It seems to me that they're not dealing with the issues.
Hi, if you've been fed up with most of the debate until now, the Scottish Independence Podcast is your chance to hear some different views on what the independence referendum means for Scotland. Hello, this is Scottish Independence Podcast 3, and this one's a little bit different from our previous format where we've had an interview basically, but this time after the event on Saturday, the Rally for Independence in Edinburgh, I decided to cut up some of the speeches and give a little memory for the people who went there. There were some interesting things said, some funny things said. Because it was an outdoors event, I've decided to record this introduction outdoors. I'd actually planned for something quite different with vox pops from the people who were at the march, but for a number of reasons it didn't really work out. I got most of these sound clips from the internet, so the sound quality is a bit up and down because most of the time it was just people with cameras at the event recording it. I've done my best to clean it up, but sometimes you're going to have to listen a little bit harder than normal. Interestingly, for an event with such a diverse group of speakers, you'll find a lot of the same themes coming up again and again. I think we should start, like many other things did, with Margot MacDonald.
My goodness, isn't it just great to be alive and in Scotland and in Edinburgh, the capital of the best free country in the world. Now I say that not as a boast, I'm just reminding you that one of Alex's predecessors spent a fortune getting a PR company to come up with that slogan. But actually it was the best small country in the world. We ditched it because it was too much of a boast then, and it'll still be too much of a boast until we make Scotland the best free country in the world. You know, it's great to be on the side of the angels just for once. Now that is not to infer anything at all about the folk who aren't here, who are our fellow Scots, because I love them just the same, with exceptions. But just remember, the day after the independence vote, whether it's win, lose or draw, they're still our fellow Scots, they're still our fellow Scots, and we'll still have to work alongside them, and we'll have to rebuild alongside them. I'm an independent, you see, I get to be nice about everybody. So I'm just asking everyone here, think about this. Alex talked about the numbers of people who support independence, and the PA is even now reporting that people in the march have said that they've changed their mind in the last year. If a third of Scots believe in independence and want independence now, every one of us has got 2 years to persuade another one Scot, and then we're home and dry. Now that's not fanciful, that's just practical. I'm very practical, as you know. It would be, and for me, an honour to be able to stand here in a couple of years' time, if I'm invited back, that is, and say, well, I'll tell you who it was I persuaded, because there's a number of candidates I've got in mind. See Alistair Darling. Oh, don't boo him. There's always room for sinners to repent. But we can laugh about it and enjoy it because life goes on. And you should remember that when you're persuading your one person that you've selected as victim. Talk to them in their ground, stand where they're standing, see it from where they see it. What is it they're worried about? That we couldn't possibly pay the high unemployment rate that they pay. Have you ever heard anything like it? You can't be independent because you'll want to still be getting unemployment benefit from us. That's a signal of failure. That's an admission on the part of the government that they haven't got it right. And instead of putting up with this tosh about you couldn't possibly leave the embrace of Mother England or Greater Britain or Bitter Britain, whatever it's called. Instead of putting up with that, tell them they've got a brass neck expecting you to commit your children and their children to a steadily diminishing state. Not a crashing failure, but steadily diminishing all the same. And when they're asking you about the defence policy, incidentally, the SNP were daft to talk about defence policy. I'll tell you why after. But when they say that you couldn't possibly have a defence policy, do you know that they've got to hire in Nimrods to do the reconnaissance of our fleet, fishing fleets and fishing grounds and oil reservoirs just now? Do you know that? They haven't even got the planes to do it themselves. And they send soldiers and they send men to foreign parts to fight wars that are very dubious and in some cases definitely illegal. And they've got the nerve to send them without the proper equipment. What a state to want to be part of. And the reason, by the way, that I said it was daft for the SNP to say, oh, here's the policy. Don't forget, when you're talking to that one person, after the independence rally, after the independence vote rather has been won, then the party politics come back into play. And we don't know who will be the party in power. So therefore, we don't know exactly what the policy will be. We can find out what the principle is beforehand, but you don't know all the fine details. So, oh, you're absolutely right with no to NATO. I said that. Now, there might be some people in here today who disagree with us, but it's not a deal breaker if you think that we should stay in NATO, because there'll be plenty of room to decide after independence exactly. And although I'm very pleased to see some flags from Europe that I recognise from 30 years ago from similar marches, I don't think there's only one way to be part of Europe. And I think that Scots should be made aware of it, that there'll be a choice to make. We don't need to be in the EU, and we certainly don't need to be in the Euro. This is where the organisers wonder if they want to invite me. However, I am an independent. I'm here to encourage other people that this referendum is not about parties. It's about every single Scot. It's about you and me and this one down here that wants to stay in NATO or something. I'll put up with you, brother, if you put up with me. But it's our referendum. It will be our independence decision to make. I sincerely hope that Scotland finds the courage to do what Scotland really wants. And I believe that in my heart of hearts. Because even the folk who are opposite us in Parliament just now, picking up wee itsy bitsy points, dancing on them, trying to inflame them, to make them a big argument against independence. A lot of them have doubts too. Don't forget that when you're talking to them. They're in a party, and the party politics at the moment mixed up with what should be entirely personal and should be principled rather than party politics. I'm so happy to have been here today. I'm very, very proud to have been here. And you're meant to leave when you're still ahead. Thank you.
And the second speech I've got for you here is Dennis Canavan.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today we have been marching to demonstrate our commitment to the cause of independence. I enjoyed the walk from the Meadows down here to Princess Street Gardens. It's a relatively short walk, but you know, our campaign is going to be more like a marathon rather than a short walk. It's a long haul between now and the autumn of 2014. There's a lot of hearts and minds out there up and down Scotland, hearts and minds to be won for our cause of independence. And whatever the opinion polls say today, if we put our minds to it, if we show the courage, the determination of a long-distance runner, if we've got the stamina to last the pace, then a historic victory will be within our grasp. Make no mistake, it is a great challenge, and our opponents will be trying to trip us up, but we must not stumble. We must show that courage and tenacity, and with that courage and tenacity, we will win through in 2014. Now, I believe in Scottish independence because basically it will mean a better future for the people of Scotland, because it will enable the people of Scotland to shape that future. As some of you will know, I'm a convert to the cause of independence, and my conversion is not based on emotion, it is based on experience. I served a long-term sentence of 26 years at Westminster, followed by a shorter sentence of 8 years in the Scottish Parliament. And I have come to the conclusion that Westminster is completely out of touch with Scotland, whereas the Scottish Parliament responds more positively and more readily to the values, the needs and the aspirations of the people of Scotland. We can see that in some of the things that our First Minister mentioned, things like free tuition for our university students, things like care for the elderly, free prescriptions, things like land reform. The Scottish Parliament has shown that it is far more radical, far more progressive than Westminster. And if the Scottish Parliament and the Scottish Government is capable of running our education service and our National Health Service, why should it not be responsible for deciding whether or not we have nuclear weapons? Why should it not be responsible for deciding whether we get involved in illegal wars? Why should it not be responsible on taking decisions as to whether we should allow bankers to ruin our economy? May I say, finally, that I am not a nationalist. I realise that many of you are proud to call yourselves a nationalist. I'm not a nationalist. I prefer the term internationalist. I'm not a Scottish nationalist, but a British nationalist. I'm an internationalist, and I would like to see an independent Scotland retaining close friendship with our nearest neighbours as equal partners. And I also want to see Scotland forging stronger relations with other countries throughout the world. That is basically why I believe in independence. I do not see it as an end in itself. I see it as a means of achieving higher standards of social justice here in Scotland, and also allowing the people of Scotland to play a more important part in helping to build a better world. That is our goal. Let's go for it, and let's achieve that historic victory. Thank you.
And the next person we're going to listen to here is Ruth Wishart, who recently came out, if that's the right word, as a supporter of independence.
The last time I saw so many soldiers, I was at Hampden, and it wasn't really such a good day. My name is Ruth, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm not a politician. I don't belong to any political party. I'm here because I think this truly is a pivotal moment for our nation, and I don't want us to lose this historic opportunity to vote for a better